I don't know. I have not looked on Spotify. Just a moment while I text on my phone, and now I'm gonna look real quick and see if it's on Spotify. I mean, it is just such a perfect song. Tara Mandal. No, we got Mandala here, but yeah, there's no A on the end. But if you download SoundCloud, I mean, I downloaded SoundCloud. It's like the only song that I listen to on SoundCloud. It's like one song on there. I am so happy to see your faces and for you to be here. And for you guys online, just so you know, when you're not here and I'm here, I am really sad. You asked Diana. We were really sad out there because it's like when we can be together, let's try to be together. I love you guys so much and I miss you all so much. And so when it's possible, when we do this and when we're here in person, please be here in person if you can, because it really matters. And all of you sweet guys that are here, I mean, just all you little y'all yogis and yoginis and your sweethearts, just appreciate it. And I definitely appreciate you all being online as well. I promise I do not take it for granted and don't ever want to take it for granted. But authenticity and honesty is a part of Rasa Yoga, and to be totally honest with you, it just makes me feel really sad. So does everybody like feel that? Diana felt it too, right? It's like it's not your responsibility to make me not sad, but that's what it feels like. Is there a way to move that square so I can see them? Because I do look at them. Thank you. Sorry, Jody. Thank you so much. Jody is our live stream support, and Ms. V is our live stream support at home, and we need more live stream support. This morning we had about 20 people online. We had 25 in the room, 20 online. I mean, it's just, and I don't know exactly how many people we've had through here today, but we're at 100 about between all the classes and here and everything that's happened. So like, I think that's a so yeah. Well, and it just feels so great. Like, I was out in the car and I was on top of Sour in the car and I was out there, because I didn't want to. Every time you try to do a Zoom when you've got a transition, the minute you transition, you could lose them. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit right here so I don't lose the thing and getting to watch people come out. I mean, the reason that I do this is I love humanity and I love being around humanity. And I think we do need each other so much. And, the title of this is The Stage of the Sage. And that's a very sage like level of being, is that you understand how much as humans we need one another more than anything. We absolutely need one another, and particularly in the US, we've turned to this sort of rugged individualism, and I want my walls and my space. And I love Deborah's, just honesty. And I said, well, I like being in my house too. She said, I don't. No, I understand when it's an option to be together. And so, I don't feel upset at anyone at all, but I always feel sad, because I want to see everybody and hug everybody. And yes, I've been hugging everybody when I can. So I'd like to do our teachers invocation. We'll just go through that one time, and I will chant that, and you can feel free to do call and response if you'd like, or you can simply receive that. We're not doing call and response. Sorry, we're going to do it together. Sahana vavatu, sahana bunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvinavaditamastu, ma vivishavahai. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. As we acknowledge the presence of all saints, sages, gurus, teachers, and masters, may our minds be wise and clear. May our intention be pure. May our hearts be merciful and loving. Namaste. Oh my God, y'all, I'm just now like realizing we've had like this whole myriad of things happening here today. Like so much has happened that we have not had so much happen in one day like we have today, right? So we had our beginner series this morning, right? And then foundation, and foundation also being part of the beginner series. Then we had our noon Nidra Plus class. I mean, we've had so many like people walk in today, and we had booty yoga. Woo! Yeah, booty yoga was rocking. I was so happy to open the door and look in there, and they're just all sweaty. And I was like, being the mother, I'm like, don't forget to take a picture. I'm like, take a picture, and she's like, oh, yeah, yeah. So that was super fun. And then seeing Robin's class in here. And so just really great. And all of y'all being here and new friends, because there's a few of you I don't know that we've met before. I'm Padma, and you are? Marissa. My daughter's middle name is Marissa. She went by Marissa in school. Yeah, it's not a really well known name. Beautiful name. And I'm Padma, and you are? Okay, we've met before. I should put my glasses on. Y'all know that I don't, I know, I don't like wearing glasses, by the way, in case I feel like there's this barrier between me. And even though I don't see as well, it feels like I don't even realize I do it, but I always take them off when I start talking to you because it's almost like I'd rather see a little bit of a blur and have this like this not that do you feel that too when you have glasses on? Yeah, it feels like there's a barrier between my eyeballs and the person in the room. So yes, I know you can. It's the person. So, and Rita's a new friend as well. Who brought canvassing cards over to the Greek restaurant, the Mediterranean? That was Arceli. So she was your father. This is Rita. This girl, she's a rock star, man. She was our fire. I was like, boy, she was just like right on point when she came in today. And I was like, man, the energy here must have drew you because it's been that kind of energy here like all day long. It's been really awesome. And let's see, another, I'll look, I'm Padma and you. Hey, Jackie, welcome. So glad you're here. And then I know there are some of you that are online, and thank you all so much for being here and being online. And even those of you that I can't see, I'm going to have to give you a hard time on that. So, but I'm really happy you're here. So tonight, and the name of this talk is The Stage of the Sage. And Rasa Yoga is a school. And when I say school, think of school, university, where, you're every time you're training at one level, you're always preparing for the next level. It's like everything you're doing is always preparing you for the next step or preparing you for the next stage. And I was a very traditionally trained, or still am, a very traditionally trained yogini. I'm like when I say traditionally trained, like I had to work for it, I had my bucket and biscuits climbing up the hill to go see my teacher, but not like that. But, back in the day, before yoga was kind of more cool, I mean, there was really no place to go where, the real deal. And I've always just really wanted to train with the real deal. So I've just spent a lot of time, getting there. And so we're very true. We're I don't know, as my teachers say, and those in the field, they say, we're a very traditional yoga school, but I just part of my dharma is a bridge from that more traditional, authentic Ayurveda yoga into a language that makes sense for people today. And I mean, I think that right now, everybody in this room and everybody online, I mean, part of our dharma is we need to all see ourselves as gurus, as sages in training, because that's really what the world needs. The world really needs a bunch of sages. And, but it's not always as easy as it looks. I tell people all the time one of the simplest things in the world is to live an enlightened way, because it's all based on principle, and it's not a moving target. It's like the law of the farm. It's not a moving target. It's like, if you don't water your plants, they die. If you move less than what you take in, you gain weight. If you move more, there's just certain laws. And Ayurveda yoga, it is all about just really kind of a law of the farm. It's like, if you do this, you get that, and that's how it goes. And it's not like you're a good person or a bad person. That's not really a concept that's in play here. Or you are right or you are wrong. It's really more about, if I put one with one, I get two. And so it's actually pretty simple. But, simple isn't always the easiest thing in the world, because what happens and what gets into gets with us are the things that we've been taught about who we are that maybe isn't true. Maybe stories that have been neuroprogramming that's been implanted in us, things that we were told through others that were suffering or had pain themselves, and they didn't know how to do better. They were doing the best they could. And so that's what generally can start to become kind of an obstacle. But really, it's not a bunch of different stories that are obstacles, because from the perspective of developing into the natural part of what you're meant to be, a sage, a guru, like, part of that process is that there's really only 5 main obstacles, are what's really referred to are afflictions that we all deal with as humans. There's really not that many different stories. I even had a friend one time, a student friend, that was a journalist major and also was aspiring to be an author. And she said, it's funny you say that, Padma, because we learned there's actually only 9 plots to any novel. I said, well, it really is true. But as humans, we tend to think we got a bunch of different stories going on. Well, we really don't. We've got really 5 main obstacles or 5 main afflictions that give rise to. And this is something that the saints, sages, gurus, and masters taught us almost 10,000 years ago. What we see now, we call new psychology, is really psychology that's been around for a long, long time. And so what you're going to hear about tonight really is part of what some will say, oh, that's that new psychology. I read this book. I read that book. This is here, that's here. But the truth is that there's a very clear, systematic, methodical way to be able to embody that aspect or that freedom, the moksha of the sage. And it takes some work, but it's possible, and it's possible for everyone. And so the first thing that I would like to share with you about the process of development, there's 3 kind of aspects of us that we're to develop. And you guys that are online, I mainly put this on the board for me. It just helps my brain. It brings the earth into it. So I'll let you know what I'm putting on here. So relax. So we have the warrior. The training of the warrior is really where we develop. It's really has a lot to do with developing our physio, psycho, spiritual anatomy. So it's our physical development, as well as our emotional nature, healing wounds, that kind of thing, and developing our ability, our courage, our ability to get out on sort of the metaphorical battlefield of life. And the reason I call it a battlefield is because it's all about duality and opposites, right? We have this, that, do I go this way? Do I go that way? And the warrior, the sacred warrior, and the warrior that gets on this path of peace and moving toward becoming yoga. Yoga is not really something you do. People talk about yoga as the postures. That's not really true. Postures are asanas. Yoga is a vast, vast expanse, and asana is like this little bit in the whole teaching of yoga. The idea of yoga is actually something you become. Yoga is a becoming unified in the realm of opposites. And the path of the warrior is where you really develop the courage to see the struggle, to see the things, to bring the subconscious to the conscious so you can see what it is that you're dealing with physically. So you see what you're dealing with, in your own life force, emotionally, and the way that you think. And so the training of the warrior is really the stepping into life and going, okay, this is what I got. This is what I'm dealing with. What do I have to work with? Now go. And so that's really the first stage. And again, you see how these circles, it's not a linear thing, it's more of a synthesizing. Then there's the scholar. It's like what you guys are doing here tonight. It's coming in and it's hearing theory and learning about, all these principles, learning about Ayurveda. Ayurveda is the what, why, where, and when, and yoga is the how. Yoga without Ayurveda is not yoga. Ayurveda without yoga isn't Ayurveda. The two, they exist as one coin, just, flip sides of a coin. And so the path of the scholar is where, you go to a school and, you learn all the stuff that goes along and you study. There's a lot of studying involved whenever you move more into yoga and Ayurveda. You study and you learn, and then this process of warrior scholar, right, comes together. And then the natural next step is the seat of the sage. And the sage is that aspect of your being that is discerning. It's called Viveka Shakti. Shakti is like power, and Viveka is discernment, and it's the power of discernment. When we've looked, we've seen, particularly in the US in the last year and a half, a lot of polarization. I'm here, I'm there. And then the birth child of that is judgment, right? Somebody's got to be right. And if somebody's right, that means somebody's got to be wrong. And that just doesn't exist in the realm of yoga. It exists in the realm of what's called boga. Boga is someone that thinks they're training in yoga, but they're really strengthening their senses and their power of polarization. And that's a real deal, a real word. And it really basically is leading with the senses and identifying with the senses. You'll see it come up in these afflictions that we're talking about. So this is kind of an overall view of the intention of training. It's like warrior, scholar, and sage. And tonight we're talking about the stage of the sage. And really kind of what starts to come between between these possibilities of advancing as the warrior, scholar, and sage. Y'all, I just learned a new word today. I love learning new stuff, and I'm gonna see if I can say it right. And if you've heard this word before, Dee's like, bring it on. Our etymologist here. Okay, who's heard this word before? Entelechy. Entelechy. Anybody? Oh my God, y'all got to get this app, man. This isn't because what this actually, huh? It doesn't see, I know, I looked, I'm like, this is not a word. Well, guess what word it is, what it means? It's mastery. The mastery of a particular, I know, is that crazy or what? And even on how to say it, I'm like, intellecty in what? Look, I got to do this. I normally do this, but I was so like blown away. Here it is. Here it is. Y'all get ready. Let's see. I don't know if I'll have to. Oh, that's my. Sorry, it's my rap. Like, here we go. Entelechy. I prove. See. Okay. It's late to Middle English, the realization of one's potential. It says here, the vital principle that guides the development and functioning of an organism or system. The entelechy of a tadpole is to develop into a frog. The teacher intended to guide all students to discover their own entelechy. That was my word for the day today. I know. So I'm going to be using that. And everybody's going to go, I don't even know what she said. Yeah, that is crazy. It's like the late Middle English, and that's exactly what this is on tonight. It's like, it's really understanding that yoga is about moving forward. It's always about moving forward. It's always about progression. There are four main goals in yoga, and I'm not going to use the Sanskrit and all of that. I'm going to because I don't want to take too long here for you guys. So the first goal, the first aim of the yogi is mastery of the material world. You know, doing your thing, go and getting your degree, writing your writing your music, success out in the material world, however you see that. It's like being able to move freely and around the material world, physically and your body, and just really having a great time in the material world. The second mastery is pleasure. Some refer to as mastery of the senses, and really the understanding of beauty. So you can see this one kind of as the art, mastery of the of artful living, and that's the second goal. Where we're really talking about tonight, words. Oh, that entelechy really threw me off there. Where we're really concerned about tonight in the stage of the sage is your potential, what you're here to be and do. Sometimes it's referred to as dharma. Dharma is the law of your potential, sometimes referred to as the law of the farm, but it's kind of this sort of spiritual law of you realizing your fullest potential, your entelechy, if you will. Maybe it's intellecty. No, what did he say? Entelechy. That's a hard word, isn't it? To say. It's just so odd. And we study Sanskrit here. Yes, Cody? Entelechy? Entel, Intel, Echy. I've looked at it a few times today. It seems like I would know this by now. Did anybody online know entelechy? All the heads are shaking. Yeah, I know. I'm seeing them. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So the realization of your potential, what it is that you're here to do. And then the fourth one is really liberation, living completely liberated. Like as a human, you move freely among in the world, and you're bound by nothing. It doesn't mean that you don't have accountability, responsibilities. It's actually you're just a really high functioning human being. And it's really more about what's happening for you internally and that inner freedom. And so this is a really important part of the development of the warrior, scholar, and sage. And yes, my friends, you must have goals and accountability. It's one of the biggest challenges we have right now. It's like people are, I know, I'm sorry guys, I got to pick you because we're less accountable to really kind of, showing up there for one another. I had a talk with my granddaughter. I'm like, no, we don't just like text and talk on the phone. That's not cool. We need to see each other. We need to be together, and be in the same room. And that's really what we're talking about. It's the seventh core function of Rasa Yoga, and it's relationship intelligence. And this movement into the stage of the sage, right around in this area between the two, we have these afflictions, like literally they're referred to as afflictions. And this is really all we got. That tends to hold us back. The Sanskrit term is kleshas, and it kind of more or less is a word that's part of the derivation of karma and also klishta. Klishta is coloring. You have things that are, you look, it's kind of like if I look through that window, there's a coloring on the window. So if somebody's standing on the other side, I can't really see all that well, but I do see something's there. But my brain will start trying to describe what it is, and then I tell the story to other people, and it may or may not be accurate. How that kind of thing happens. And so these afflictions, they're called kleshas, And the word that it's sort of mixed in with is karma, which karma is a law of cause and effect. It's you create your world through your choices, right? And then how you respond to the effects of your choices, and the term klishta, which is coloring. So the idea here is we look at these afflictions, it's not like it's something that's done to you, but it's just very much part of our humanity, right? And how we move about in the world, and kind of take on this warrior's path, the scholar's path, and to be able to move into the sage. And the first one is ignorance. And what's meant by this here, and there is no other way to translate the word. I've asked so many, and it's just, ignorance. And really the idea is, when you look at it, you see the word ignore on there. And it really has so much more to do with like ignoring universal truths and instead paying more attention to non-reality, or to stories, or to to your own pain body. For the most part, all of us, as we've come up in the world, we've had all these people telling us who we are. You've had teachers tell you who you should be, and maybe family members, family of origin. You've got society, people saying, oh, you should be this, you should be that. It's like being domesticated. It's like, okay, be palatable so you're really acceptable to fill in the blank. Did anybody, have that? I know I had it as a kid. And so what happens is that we grow up, and now you guys are here, and you're like, that's not working though. That is just not acceptable, and it's not working. But the biggest challenge is that it's also familiar. So when something triggers us, we'll have a tendency to ignore what are certainties, like universal truths, and we pay more attention to the story. We pay more attention to the rejection. We pay more attention to the suffering. We pay more attention to the pain. And so this first klesha is seen as kind of the umbrella over all the kleshas. And the whole practice of Ayurveda yoga is designed to empower you to move through that, so you have discernment or self-awareness. Where there is awareness, there are no kleshas. Y'all remember that. Where there is awareness, because I'm going to close with that statement, but I want to come back to it. Where there is awareness, there is no ignorance. Where there's awareness, there are no afflictions. Okay, so the second one is egoism. So the ego is a very important part of our experience in life. It's like the instrument or the tool to which we know where we need to show up when. If I walk out in the car, I know that's my car. It's where we say me, my, my thing, this, that, and our personality. The ego is a beautiful thing. And in yoga psychology, you learn that part of your consciousness is what creates the ego, or is the source of the ego. But the problem is that where there is ignorance, then there is egoism. And what egoism is, where we get confused and we think we're the thing we created. And the trouble with that is that the ego is about its own survival. And I mean, it's like, it doesn't matter if it's good, bad, or ugly. The ego just wants to survive, and it wants what it wants, how it wants it. It's like a child, and your mind, your awareness, because remember, where there is awareness, there is no egoism. So y'all remember that as a mantra. Where there is awareness, there is no ignorance. Where there is awareness, there is no egoism. Okay. The third and the fourth, they're like this dynamic duo. And it's attachment and to resist. Or sometimes there is aversion, even an aversion to. So it's attachment and resistance, or in modern psychology, it's referred to as the pleasure pain principle. So where we start to ignore those things that are certain, like those certain truths, and sort of living along those principles, or we don't have the capacity to do it just yet, where we're identifying with the ego, that which is temporary, that we created, that's simply meant to be a tool for how we operate in the world. Where there will be attachment and resistance. Where there is awareness, there is no attachment. Where there is awareness, there is no resistance. So y'all remember that. So where there is awareness, there is no resistance. So the fifth one is clinging to life. You could even just say clinging. Also, fear of death. So clinging to life or fear of death. And so these, this fifth one, we see this, really a lot, and we see the challenge. You're like, well, yeah, I don't want to die. Well, no, I mean, none of us really wants to, but I mean, this body is temporary. It's like a suit of clothes that we put on. We put on this suit of clothes. We've all got something to do. We saw those 4 goals. We got to fulfill all those 4 goals. And, the yogi decides how long they need to be here. The sage says, hey, I got stuff to do. This is about how long it takes. So, yeah, I need to be around here for about 128 years. So you need to figure out how you're going to make that happen because you got stuff to do. It's a whole different view of shifting from victim of life, I got to cling, to wait a minute, I'm in charge of this. I've got stuff that I need to handle. I've got a life that I've got to live, difference that I need to make, and some thriving that I need to do. And so it doesn't mean that we don't experience, some fear, or that we're like loving it or whatever, but it does mean that we start to become aware of our clinging. And noticing our grasping. Because when we're in that, when we live life and we're like so afraid, then we find that we're also clinging to others as well, or pushing away others as well. Sort of the attachment aversion principle then begins to kick in. And so anytime we're leading in our relationship with ourselves, or we're leading in our relationships with others from these 5 afflictions, we're going to find ourselves suffering. And suffering is absolutely optional, but it takes a little work, right, to move from that place. So the afflictions are the kleshas. Now, let's talk about awareness. And when I'm saying where there is awareness. So in the stage of the sage, the stage of the sage is where we come into our own wisdom. In yoga psychology, you learn that there are 5 main, there's so many different 5s and this and that, but there's 5 main levels of awareness, or five realms of awareness that have what you call like a veil between the two, or almost like a wall sometimes is what it feels like. And the ability to be able to pierce those veils of awareness is the process of taking the seat of the sage. And these levels of awareness, they often look like concentric circles. And each circle represents something called Maya, or illusion. And Maya is really important because, we need Maya. We need the illusion, because it's like, from the perspective of yoga psychology, this human thing is a big fun game. My teacher says that our souls want to incarnate as a human so much. It's like the greatest thing in the world. We're just, even as hard as it can be, it's just like, it's just waiting, going, okay, is it my turn? And to incarnate as a human. And so there's a term, there's even a Sanskrit term called Leela. It's the grand divine cosmic play called life. And it also is a theater term as well. But the rasa of it all is really the cultivation of being the player you want to be in this great, cosmic play, or this big game called life. And imagine, do any of you like to play any kind of games? Are there any games that you like, go fish or poker or chess, or, I mean, you sit down to play a game, right? Let's look at Monopoly. Okay, we'll keep it simple because it's Monopoly. You sit down and play Monopoly, and you're talking about, buying properties and doing this and doing that, and you kind of get like, with each other, with your family. My family, we play games on holidays and stuff, and my family will get all this stuff around, playing the games. But if somebody just kind of threw the board up and went, it's just a game, we don't need to play this. Well, part of you to really have fun with the game, part of you needs to kind of forget that it's a game and almost just really dive into it. That's the Maya. And that's people, when we do that as humans, it's called Maya Shakti. It's our power to cultivate the illusion so we can, get in there and enjoy the game of life. My teacher says, you have all of eternity to be at one with the universe. Your job now is to be a great human. Right. And part of that is learning to move toward the seat of the sage, the mastery of the warrior, the mastery of the scholar, and the mastery of the sage. And part of what we do is we want to develop awareness. The number one main stage of any sage is the development of self-awareness. Big S self-awareness. We begin first with the physical practice of yoga. You start developing your proprioception, your spatial awareness. You develop what's called your interoception or somatic awareness, deeper inner awareness. And by using this body to learn to move along the skeletal structure and learning to then move with your breath, as you start to get your breath and your body in this synchronous, like if you've ever seen like fish swimming in the water and it's like, wow, it's so beautiful, or the birds in the sky, and somehow they just are so synchronous, and how they swim or how they move together. You need your physical body and your prana or your breath body in this synchronous relationship. And from there, your nervous system starts to calm down. Well, when your nervous system starts to calm down, then you start to be able to access your mental, emotional nature. So the first three realms of awareness, self-awareness, is the physical body, the pranic body. Prana is the term for life force. The Chinese term for it is qi. And then you have prana. The breath is the most manifested form of life force or prana. It's the thing we can, so, if you can feel it, you blow on a glass, you can then see it. And so it's through the breath that we get our physical body and our, bless you, and our pranic body in this sort of synchronous, synergistic relationship. Well, when that comes into relationship with each other, then we pierce this first veil. It's like I move from one realm of awareness to another, and you feel it. It's an experience, right? And that experience is called the stage of the sage. When you go, wow, I have no words for that experience. I'll say, congratulations. You've had an experience and now it's yours and it's wisdom. You know now why you do that physical movement thing with your breath. You now know why you do it. Doesn't mean you're just going to go back and do it perfectly. I'll probably have to hound you a while about it because we forget because of the afflictions, right? Because there's a real pull of what's familiar, man. It's like, because we're playing a game and we don't want to forget we're playing the game. So, but there is a way to still play the game and at the same time continue to grow. It's like if you look at a beautiful flowering plant, you can enjoy one flower while still taking care of the rest of the plant so it can continue to, propagate and create other beautiful flowers and other beautiful plants. And that's what you do. And so awareness, real awareness, is the sage, and moving through those stages of awareness or realms of awareness requires we begin first with our physical body. That's the only reason why I have general classes here. I mean, is so people can pierce those veils, right? Because the body makes a great instrument for your body to feel better. That's kind of a byproduct. It's like, okay, yeah, body feels better, body stronger. Okay, so I can do a handstand, a headstand, arm out, whatever. That's such a small thing compared to what's really available, but it's a nice byproduct. I'll tell you that for sure. This month is my birthday month, so we're going to be celebrating a lot this month. So it's my big 6-0. So I'm super excited. It's in 2 weeks. I think, well, less than 2 weeks. I normally don't talk about my birthday much at all, except my 50th I did and my 60th. So normally I don't really care too much about birthdays. I'll be teaching here pretty much all day. So doing the thing I love. Um, okay. So the realms of awareness. So that first realm of awareness then is our physical body. We move through mastery of our physical body with the asanas, where the mastery comes from, or the stage of the sage is piercing the veil of the physical body to the pranic body. The way you do that is when you hear the teacher say, let your breath be a little longer than your movement. That's key. So every inhale is a little longer than the movement. Every exhale is a little longer than the movement. It's not as, I know it's not as, it's simple, but not as easy as it sounds, but I've seen a lot of people get it. That begins to empower you to pierce that veil. And when you pierce the veil, you remember, wait a minute, I'm something more than these problems. I'm something more than these stupid small beliefs that people have tried to make me think that I am. I'm something more. And it's an experience. It's not something somebody's telling you. You know that you know. And you pierce that veil. That's just a little step closer to the seat of the sage. And then the next right after the pranic body, now this is the juicy one, it's the mental emotional realm. This is the term rasa actually refers to the physical body, and it refers to kind of our leanings, our tastes, our flavors, proclivities in life, and cultivated emotion. So the third stage of awareness is piercing the veil to the mental emotional realm. Now understand, guys, on all three of these realms of awareness, have you ever like put food on the stove to boil, like boiled eggs or veggies or something like that, and you put it on there and it'll start boiling over, but if you stir it, what does it do? Well, yoga is pretty stressful because it stirs it all up. It really does. This is what I was sharing with you today. I said, yeah, it is hard because when you step on your mat, it's like you're going into a science lab. And when you're really practicing real yoga, you're opening up to, let's bring the subconscious to the conscious, baby. Let's stir the pot. Because for most people, it's already boiling over. That's why a lot of people show up here. I'm the same. I mean, I feel I have my own pains and things like that. And, and the whole idea behind true yoga is to bring the subconscious to the conscious so you can see. Because what you can feel, you really can heal. But that's always, again, a little easier said than done. But the stages of the sage, or the realms of awareness, requires that we pierce that veil into that mental emotional realm. And it's not just the mind alone, it's the body, the breath, and the pranic body, and the mind now going swimming so beautifully, so elegantly. That's what we want, right? When we pierce those veils in those three realms of awareness, then that's when stuff really starts happening. That's when we really can start growing and we go, I'm hooked. I want to get in the Guru and Parampara program or whatever. I mean, it's true because you have an experience. I mean, people can tell you all day long that you're a beautiful person because you are. You are. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing innately wrong with you. Whatever, if you have a thing in your own mind that you call yourself bad names, or I mean, that really makes me feel sad. It's like if you do any of that, or that's sort of a natural thing, or you kind of naturally go, oh, I shouldn't have. I mean, can you imagine if you had a little 4 or 5-year-old here and they dropped something and you looked at them, or they forgot something and you said, what's wrong with you? Ugh, that feels yucky to even say that. You wouldn't say that, would you? So you don't say it to yourself. And those are the voices that sometimes can be the challenge, because your fish starts swimming, and then next thing you know, the old stuff comes up. But when those first three veils are pierced, the nervous system, you become more into a place of mastery of your nervous system. You're able to calm your heartbeat. In other words, you start operating from a different place in your brain. You start, instead of operating from what's referred to as the survival brain or the crocodile brain, you start referring, it's sometimes simply referred to as top brain down, kind of the creative brain. And that creative brain is the manifested part that kind of connects with knowledge and awareness and all that is. And when you make that shift, that's when the warrior, scholar, sage, it all starts to work together. And something that's really important to know on the path of mastery, mastery is not a destination. In the path of mastery, living life masterfully. George Leonard wrote Stages of Mastery, and it's one of our Master's Path program books. He says, the process of mastery is really lost in the United States of America, because we're like, we want to read a book. I mean, I love the fact that there's so much knowledge out there, but when it comes to discipline and really following kind of a systematic, methodical path, that gets boring and all your stuff comes to the surface. Oh, let me go do this new thing. Let me go do this new thing or whatever. We tend to dig a lot of shallow wells all over instead of just digging one well, getting down to the dark places, hitting the hard places. We tend to jump around as Americans. And Mr. Leonard says in his book, he says, there's three very important parts of mastery. There's progress, and there's regression, and there's plateauing. Progress, plateau, and regression are very important parts in mastery. And this school is all about living mastery. The word master and mastery is a very important part of all of my training. And that it isn't a place that you get to someday. Within the path of mastery, there are certain things that you might master, postures you might master, breath techniques, meditations, but there's always more. In the realm of your entelechy, there's always more. In the realm of awareness, it goes a long way. Those first three realms of awareness, that's not all there is. In the stage of the sage, we begin to then pierce the next veil, which is referred to as the wisdom veil. In other words, we start to see the world from those universal principles, the things that are certain. We start to develop the discipline and the capacity to lift our eyes up and out of the this, that, good, bad, right, wrong. But instead of this, that, or the other, just like one very important teacher said, let that eye be one. The body is filled with light. We see the world from one as opposed to this, that, or the other. And then we hold that stage long enough, and there's a whole other realm of awareness. And in that realm of awareness, as we pierce that veil is referred to as the bliss realm of awareness. In other words, our bliss isn't found from what's happening outside of us, because we have the capacity to know, to really know, to feel, to experience that there's so much more, but we still play the game. And that's the realm where we really can transform our karma, because that is the realm where the warrior, scholar, sage has come into the synchronous place, and you actually can see your own karma. In other words, you really make these intense, I'm going to call it intense, very profound and intense connections between your actions or your choices and the results and how you respond to those. And that's when you really get into the driver's seat of your own destiny. And it's 100% possible, that, you know, that anyone can go there. And, but like I said, there's a very methodical process. Now, when I say methodical, it doesn't mean we don't fall, doesn't mean we don't fail. Every master falls. There's no chance for success if we don't learn how to embrace failure and go, you know, my grandson, of course, he learned how to walk a long time ago, but I'm still using the walking thing. He's about to be 6, but it seems like it was just yesterday. Seems like it was just yesterday that my 18-year-old granddaughter was learning to walk, but you know, he took a while to learn to walk, and he's a big boy. He gets so frustrated and you know, and he'd fall down and and he'd just get cry and he'd get mad. But guess what he would do? Do it all over again. There's not a time I remember him going, oh, forget this. I'm not going to walk. I mean, he's almost 6 and he's walking now. So he's running, he's skipping, he's jumping, he's hopping. He's like, he's climbing. And you're like, no, you know, because he had to fall a lot. But in the falling, you know, he'd fall and so back off and he'd be so mad and, you know, but he'd do it because it's really important that we fall. And what I've learned in my own experience is working with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and probably a lot more than that, but of people, is that the very first lesson is the act of acceptance. Awareness is not possible without true self-acceptance. But moving as warrior, scholar, sage in life is not possible without awareness. Awareness is not possible without full self-acceptance. I mean, real, and not from other people, not needing approval from other people, none of that. I'm talking full on self-love. Yes, I'm talking to you. Full, I could feel you back there. Full on self-love. You too, Robin. You know you need full on self-love. You may say, Pama, what is that? Well, you'll learn, and many of you are learning. And I can tell you what it's not, though. It's not self-rejection and being mean and talking ugly and all that stuff to yourself. And looking at the mirror and picking out every place and that's not right and stuff like that. It's not that. And it's not living as though there's something inherently wrong with you. Yes, I'm talking to you now too, Marissa. There is nothing wrong with you. Do you believe that? Absolutely nothing wrong with you. When we can really learn to embody that. And even if you see that logically you think that's there, remember those kleshas and notice when something happens and you're not paying attention, what is your first inner words, thoughts? Like if you forget your keys or you're running late or you do some mess up, how do you act towards yourself on the inside? And that'll tell you how you are. And it's when it's hard. And there's no excuse. You might say, yeah, no, Pama, but you don't understand. If I wouldn't have gotten there on time, I'd have lost my job. Still no reason to be ugly to yourself. Still no reason not to take 30 seconds. Get those 3 fish swimming. Take a deep breath and take care of yourself. There's no job. There's no relationship. There's nothing that is worth you even spending 30 seconds in any self-degradation, self-depreciation. There's nothing worth it. Not even for a second. So in the stages of the sage, what you want to take with you right now is, first of all, where there is awareness. Now, where there is awareness, there's no living in the past. There's no worry about the future. Aware means you are 100% in the here and now. No worrying about the future, fear, dread, no shame, guilt about the past. 100% in the moment is what awareness is. When you're 100% in the moment, these afflictions, they'll roll right off of you when there's 100% awareness. But to sustain 100% awareness, you got to have 100% self-acceptance, right, Diana? 100% self-acceptance. full self-acceptance and to learn what that means. But I'll give you a key word, and that word is mercy. Being merciful, deeply. I'm not talking about feeling sorry for yourself and pitying yourself. That's a different deal altogether. That makes us go drink things we shouldn't drink, eat things we shouldn't eat, and say things we shouldn't say, and spend what we shouldn't spend. That's what pity does. Holding a true space of mercy is a place where you go, I don't, I'm not crazy about my behavior, but that's what we got. This is what we got. Now, let's pay attention to what I have to work with. Forgiveness, self-acceptance. Get on my mat, get my fish swimming in a synchronous way. Because the moment you do that, you get out of crocodile brain, and the crocodile is not going to try to eat you anymore. You're good to go, and you get into your creative brain, which that's where love is found. Unified field of love. And so you get on your mat, you practice your physical postures, get your breath a little longer than your movements. See the places where you're not aware, where you're worrying about the past or the future, seeing the places where you're not in full-on self-acceptance, and beginning again. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for being here online. I'm so happy to see you guys, our non-local people too. It's so great to see you. But it's not going to be long before I see Heather, Sarah, a few of you guys. Woohoo! Hey, Barbara. Thank you all so much for being there. And Kristen, it's awesome to see you. Laura, Denise Snow. Oh, wait a minute. Denise Snow is here. Oh no, Denise Snow is bilocating. She's really in the, she's in that stage of the sage. Phil, great to see you. Sue. Let's see. And Allison, Nikki, great to see you. Shelley, Becky, great to see you guys. So thank you all so much for being here in your presence. There's not anything like that, and like seeing your beautiful faces and being here today. I had so many people say to me today, I'm so glad you're still open. But my friends, it's been touch and go quite a few times. And there is no way that we would be sitting here today with all of you here in person in this beautiful day. It really was like the beauty that we felt here so many times before, except even better. But there's no way that it would have happened if it wouldn't have been for you guys staying persistent, continually showing up. I mean, this is a bad A community, and I appreciate it so much. And just all the support that you guys offered through the whole time. I mean, I shared authentically my own fears and my own concerns, and this community's been through a lot. And to see you all here and now, and like, you can really just be like, yes, we're on the other side. Come on, let's see it. Yes, we're on the other side. Woohoo! And you did it. And we're just going to come out that much stronger. So thank you all so much for being here. Let's take a deep cleansing breath together. So we take this time now and just feel your sit bones on the ground. Lean into your own spine. Just remember, you truly are born of light. A principle of love in action. That is the truth of who you are. The term for when you are leaning into your truest essence is called swabhava. Bhava is like a cultivated emotion that becomes a tone or a feeling, and sva is your essence, your essential essence. And just leaning into your spine as you stay with your breath. This will do a call and response. So those of you that are newer, this is basically, it's acknowledging joy, peace, love on all planes of existence, all realms of awareness. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Ka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. There's such deep gratitude and appreciation for all saints, sages, gurus, teachers, and masters. May we move forward now with our intention pure, our mind wise and clear, our hearts merciful, filled with love. Namaste. Thank you all so much for being here. Namaste. Thank you guys online. Go forward and prepare your seat of the sage. Thanks for being here, Rita. That was a real sign when she came back with that canvassing card. That was for, she walked right in. She's like, here you go.